Silence has a quiet strength that the world often misunderstands. Many people believe that power belongs to the loudest voice in the room, the one who argues the most, the one who constantly proves a point. But the deepest strength often lives in the person who chooses calm over chaos, reflection over reaction, and focus over distraction. When you begin to focus on yourself and stay silent, you discover a kind of peace that no outside approval can give you. There comes a moment in life when you realize that explaining yourself to everyone is exhausting. You try to make people understand your intentions, your dreams, your struggles, but no matter how carefully you speak, some people will still misunderstand you. Some will twist your words. Some will ignore your effort. And that is when wisdom begins to whisper something simple but powerful. Not every misunderstanding deserves an explanation. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop carrying the burden of everyone else's opinions. You begin to understand that people see you through the lens of their own experiences, their fears, their expectations, and their insecurities. Their judgment is often a reflection of their own inner world, not the truth about who you are. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It is the moment you stop pouring your energy into proving your worth and start investing that energy into building your life. It is when you stop running after validation and start walking toward growth. Many people spend years trying to win arguments that never mattered. They respond to every criticism, defend every choice, and chase the approval of people who never planned to give it. But the truth is simple: the more you argue with people who refuse to understand you, the more you lose pieces of your peace. Silence becomes powerful when it is chosen with wisdom, not with fear. Silence is not weakness, it is discipline. It is the decision to protect your mind from unnecessary noise. When you stay silent, you begin to notice something important about the world around you. People reveal themselves more clearly when you stop interrupting them. Their intentions become visible. Their character becomes clearer. Their patterns become obvious. Words can hide truth, but silence often exposes it. When you focus on yourself, you start noticing how much energy you once wasted on things that had nothing to do with your purpose. You remember the nights you spent worrying about what someone said about you. You remember the hours you spent replaying conversations in your mind. You remember the moments you tried to correct rumors or explain your decisions. And one day you look back and realize that none of those arguments built your dreams. None of those explanations improved your future. Growth begins the moment your attention shifts inward. Instead of asking why people misunderstood you, you begin asking what you can learn today. Instead of worrying about what others think, you start thinking about what kind of person you are becoming. Your focus becomes your foundation. Every dream requires attention. Every goal requires patience. Every transformation requires time. When your mind is constantly occupied with other people's drama, you have little space left to build your own life. The world is full of distractions designed to pull you away from your purpose. Opinions, criticism, gossip, competition, comparisons. All of them try to capture your attention. But attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Where you place your focus determines the direction of your life. If you focus on negativity, your days will feel heavy. If you focus on progress, your days will feel meaningful. If you focus on proving others wrong, you may win arguments but lose time. If you focus on improving yourself, you may lose some people but gain a better future. Silence protects your focus. When you stop reacting to everything around you, your mind becomes clearer. You begin to hear your own thoughts again, your own goals, your own direction. People who are constantly explaining themselves rarely have time to grow. Their energy is scattered across endless conversations, endless defenses, endless justifications. But the person who quietly focuses on their own path moves forward in ways that others often do not notice until it is too late. Growth rarely announces itself with noise. It happens quietly, in daily effort, in private discipline, in moments when no one is watching. The strongest transformations happen in silence. You learn new skills without announcing every step. You build new habits without seeking applause. You strengthen your mind without broadcasting your struggles. And slowly your life begins to change. The truth about silence is that it confuses people who expect reactions. Some individuals thrive on conflict. They want responses. They want emotional reactions. They want to know that they have the power to disturb your peace. When you remain silent, you take that power away. Your silence becomes a boundary that says, without words, that your energy is too valuable to waste on unnecessary battles. Some people will misunderstand your silence. They may think you are weak. They may think you have nothing to say. They may think you are avoiding confrontation. But the truth is far deeper than that. Silence is often the language of self-respect. It is the decision to protect your emotional space. It is the quiet confidence that you do not need to win every argument to live a meaningful life. Many people mistake noise for strength. They believe that constantly speaking proves confidence. But true confidence often speaks less because it does not need constant validation. When you trust yourself, you stop feeling the need to defend every action. You understand that your life does not require universal approval. You begin to accept a powerful truth. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Some conversations are not meant to continue. Some debates are not meant to be won. Some people are not meant to understand you, and that is perfectly acceptable. When you focus on yourself, your priorities shift. You begin waking up with intention instead of anxiety. Your mornings are no longer filled with thoughts about who might criticize you today. Instead, your mind turns toward your own growth. What can you learn today? What can you improve today? What small step can bring you closer to your dreams? The energy that once fueled arguments now fuels progress. The attention that once chased approval now builds discipline. You begin to notice that the quiet hours of focus bring a deep satisfaction that arguments never provided. Silence gives you space to listen to your inner voice, the one that often gets buried beneath the noise of other people's expectations. That voice knows your dreams. It knows your values. It knows the direction your life should take. But it can only be heard when the outside noise fades. Many people fear silence because it forces them to face themselves. In quiet moments, distractions disappear and the truth of your life becomes visible. But this truth is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. Because when you face yourself honestly, you gain the ability to change your life intentionally. Focusing on yourself allows you to build emotional independence. You stop depending on praise to feel valuable. You stop depending on attention to feel important. Your sense of worth becomes internal rather than external. You realize that your value does not increase when someone compliments you, and it does not decrease when someone criticizes you. Your value simply exists. And once you understand that truth, the opinions of others lose their power to control your emotions. Staying silent also teaches patience. Not every problem requires an immediate response. Not every challenge demands instant action. Sometimes the wisest response is time. Time reveals truth. Time exposes intentions. Time shows you which battles matter and which ones were never worth your attention. The person who reacts to everything becomes emotionally exhausted. The person who chooses their responses carefully preserves their strength. Silence gives you the chance to observe before deciding. Observation is a powerful teacher. When you watch people without immediately responding, you begin to notice patterns. You see who truly supports you and who only appears when it is convenient. You see who respects your boundaries and who constantly tries to cross them. You learn who values your presence and who only values your reactions. This understanding is not gained through loud conversations. It is gained through quiet awareness. When your focus remains on your own growth, your life slowly transforms into something stronger and more stable. Your confidence becomes quieter but deeper. Your goals become clearer. Your mind becomes calmer. And the chaos of other people's opinions begins to feel distant. The world will always have noise. There will always be voices telling you what you should do, who you should be, how you should live. But none of those voices can replace the wisdom that grows within you when you learn to focus on yourself. There is freedom in realizing that you do not need to participate in every conversation about you. There is strength in realizing that silence can carry dignity. There is peace in realizing that your life does not need to be explained to everyone who questions it. Your journey belongs to you. Your dreams belong to you. Your growth belongs to you. And the time you have on this earth is far too precious to spend it constantly defending your existence. Focus quietly on becoming the person you are meant to be. Let your discipline speak through your actions. Let your progress speak through your results. Let your peace speak through your silence. Because the most powerful transformation happens when you stop trying to prove yourself to the world and start building a life that speaks for itself. The more you focus on yourself, the less power other people's opinions have over your life. This truth does not always reveal itself quickly. For many people, it takes years of emotional exhaustion, countless misunderstandings, and repeated disappointments before they finally realize how much control they have unknowingly given to the voices around them. It often begins in small ways. A careless comment from someone stays in your mind longer than it should. A stranger's criticism suddenly makes you question your confidence. A person's approval feels like a reward, and their disapproval feels like a punishment. Slowly, without realizing it, your mood, your choices, and even your sense of self-worth begin to revolve around how others perceive you. When your attention is constantly directed outward, your life starts to feel like a stage where you are performing for an invisible audience. You think about how your decisions will appear to others before thinking about how they align with your own goals. You measure your progress through comparisons instead of personal growth. You begin to worry more about judgment than about purpose. This quiet dependence on external opinions can slowly drain the joy from your journey, because every step forward becomes tangled with the fear of criticism. Focusing on yourself begins with a shift in awareness. It is the moment you realize that most people are far more concerned with their own lives than with yours. The same individuals whose opinions once kept you awake at night are often busy dealing with their own challenges, their own insecurities, and their own uncertainties. The weight you once gave to their judgment starts to feel unnecessary. The realization grows that many opinions are formed quickly, based on incomplete understanding, and influenced by personal bias. Once this awareness settles into your thinking, something powerful begins to happen. Your mind starts redirecting its energy inward. Instead of wondering what someone else might say about your decisions, you begin asking yourself whether those decisions move you closer to the life you want to build. Instead of reacting emotionally to every criticism, you begin evaluating whether the criticism contains any truth that can help you improve. This shift does not happen overnight. At first, the voices of judgment may still echo in your thoughts. You might still feel the impulse to explain yourself, to justify your choices, or to prove someone wrong. But with time and conscious effort, your priorities begin to rearrange themselves. The energy once spent defending your path becomes energy invested in walking it. Focusing on yourself means paying attention to your habits, your mindset, and your daily actions. It means recognizing that the most meaningful competition you will ever face is not with other people, but with the person you were yesterday. Growth becomes less about comparison and more about consistency. You begin measuring your progress through small improvements in discipline, understanding, and emotional balance. As your focus strengthens, something interesting happens to the opinions around you. They begin to lose their emotional intensity. Words that once felt heavy begin to sound lighter. Criticism that once felt personal begins to feel distant. You realize that someone else's opinion is simply a reflection of their perspective, not a definition of your reality. People often speak from the boundaries of their own experiences. Their advice, their judgments, and their assumptions are shaped by the life they have lived, the fears they carry, and the limitations they have accepted. When you understand this, you stop expecting everyone to understand your journey. You stop assuming that every opinion deserves equal importance. Focusing on yourself also teaches you to recognize the difference between constructive feedback and unnecessary negativity. Constructive feedback comes from a place of growth. It offers insight, guidance, and sometimes uncomfortable truth meant to help you improve. Negative judgment, on the other hand, often carries no intention of helping you grow. It may come from jealousy, misunderstanding, or a simple desire to criticize. When your focus is strong, you learn to accept helpful feedback without allowing destructive opinions to disturb your peace. You listen carefully when there is something valuable to learn, and you quietly move forward when there is nothing useful to gain. Another transformation occurs as your focus deepens. Your sense of identity becomes less dependent on external validation. Compliments feel pleasant, but they no longer define your worth. Criticism may still appear, but it no longer determines your direction. Your confidence begins to grow from internal alignment rather than public approval. This kind of confidence is quieter than the kind that seeks attention. It does not demand recognition, and it does not crumble under disagreement. It simply exists, supported by the knowledge that you are investing your time and energy in becoming better each day. As your life becomes more centered on your own progress, distractions lose their influence. Conversations that once pulled you into unnecessary arguments no longer feel worth your time. Situations that once triggered emotional reactions begin to feel insignificant compared to the goals you are working toward. Your time becomes more valuable to you. You begin protecting it with greater care. Instead of spending hours analyzing what someone might think about you, you spend those hours developing skills, strengthening relationships that truly matter, and building the future you once only imagined. The freedom that comes from focusing on yourself is subtle but powerful. It feels like a quiet release from invisible pressure. The pressure to impress, to explain, to constantly prove your value begins to fade. In its place grows a steady sense of direction. You begin to understand that your life is not meant to be shaped by every opinion that passes through your path. It is meant to be shaped by your choices, your discipline, and your willingness to grow. This understanding brings a new kind of emotional stability. When someone praises you, you appreciate the kindness without becoming dependent on it. When someone criticizes you unfairly, you recognize that their words cannot change the work you are doing or the direction you are moving. Focusing on yourself does not mean ignoring the world around you. It means choosing where your attention truly belongs. It means recognizing that while opinions will always exist, they do not have to control your thoughts or your emotions. Every moment you spend investing in your own development strengthens your independence from outside judgment. Every skill you build, every lesson you learn, and every challenge you overcome becomes proof that your progress does not require universal approval. Gradually, your life begins to feel more peaceful. The constant noise of comparison fades into the background. The urge to respond to every comment weakens. The need to convince everyone that you are on the right path disappears. Your attention remains where it has the greatest impact on your growth, your purpose, and the quiet determination that guides your steps forward. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Sometimes silence is the highest form of wisdom. Many people grow up believing that they must explain themselves whenever someone misunderstands them. They feel a strong urge to clarify every detail, defend every decision, and correct every false assumption. At first, this instinct may seem reasonable because being understood feels important. Human beings naturally want their intentions to be seen clearly and their actions to be interpreted fairly. But life slowly teaches a deeper truth. Not every misunderstanding can be fixed. And not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. There will always be people who interpret your words through the filter of their own experiences. Some will hear what they want to hear instead of what you actually said. Some will create conclusions before asking questions. Others may judge your actions without ever taking the time to understand your reasons. When this happens, the immediate reaction is often to explain, to defend, to clarify until the other person finally understands. Yet wisdom begins when you recognize that understanding cannot be forced. Some individuals are not truly listening. They are simply waiting for their turn to speak. When someone has already decided what they believe about you, your explanations may never reach them. Your words may pass through their ears but never reach their mind. In these moments, continuing to explain yourself becomes like pouring water into a cup that is already full. No matter how much you pour, nothing new can be added. Silence becomes powerful in such moments. It is not the silence of weakness or fear, but the silence of awareness. It is the understanding that your peace is more valuable than endless attempts to control how others perceive you. When you stop rushing to correct every misunderstanding, you begin to reclaim the energy that was once spent trying to manage other people's thoughts. There is a quiet dignity in allowing some people to believe what they want while you continue living your truth. Your life cannot be fully explained in a few sentences, and your character cannot be reduced to a single conversation. The people who truly care about understanding you will take the time to observe your actions, to listen with patience, and to look beyond quick judgments. Those who refuse to do so often reveal that their opinion was never meant to be fair in the first place. Many misunderstandings are temporary. Time has a way of revealing what explanations cannot. When people watch your consistency, when they observe your character over a long period, their perspective often changes naturally. The truth that seemed unclear in conversation becomes obvious through actions. A calm and steady life often speaks more clearly than long explanations. Trying to correct every misunderstanding can also lead to emotional exhaustion. You may find yourself repeating the same explanations again and again, hoping that eventually someone will understand. But the more you repeat yourself, the more your energy becomes tied to their approval. Your peace becomes dependent on whether they accept your explanation, and this creates a cycle that rarely ends. Silence breaks this cycle. When you choose not to engage in endless clarification, you protect your mental space. You allow yourself to move forward rather than staying trapped in conversations that lead nowhere. Silence becomes a boundary that quietly says your time and emotional energy are valuable. This does not mean that communication is unimportant. There are moments when clarification is necessary, especially with people who genuinely want to understand you. Honest conversations can strengthen relationships and resolve confusion when both sides are open and respectful. But wisdom lies in recognizing the difference between a conversation that seeks understanding and one that only seeks argument. When someone approaches you with curiosity and respect, explaining yourself can build connection. When someone approaches with accusation and closed-mindedness, explanation often becomes a wasted effort. Learning to recognize this difference is part of emotional maturity. Silence also teaches patience. When you stop reacting immediately to every misunderstanding, you give situations time to reveal themselves. You allow space for reflection instead of rushing into defense. Sometimes people realize their mistake on their own. Sometimes they notice the gap between their assumptions and your actions. These realizations are often stronger when they occur naturally rather than through forced explanations. Another reason silence holds wisdom is that constant explanation can unintentionally give power to criticism. When you feel compelled to respond to every misunderstanding, you allow other people's assumptions to control your focus. Your attention becomes centered on correcting their thoughts, instead of continuing your own growth. Focusing on your path quietly shifts the balance. Instead of chasing after every false impression, you invest your energy into becoming the person you want to be. Your actions, your discipline, and your consistency gradually speak for themselves. Over time, the truth becomes visible without the need for endless words. People often forget that misunderstandings are a natural part of human interaction. Every individual sees the world through a unique perspective shaped by their upbringing, culture, experiences, and emotions. Because of these differences, complete understanding between people is not always possible. Expecting everyone to interpret you perfectly is unrealistic and often leads to frustration. Accepting that some misunderstandings will remain unresolved can bring a surprising sense of peace. Instead of trying to control every narrative about your life, you learn to accept that different people will form different opinions. Some will see your intentions clearly, while others may never see them at all. Silence becomes the space where self-respect grows. It is the calm refusal to argue endlessly for validation. It is the quiet strength that allows you to stand by your values without needing universal agreement. This kind of silence is not passive. It is active awareness. It involves choosing your responses carefully instead of reacting impulsively. It requires emotional control and confidence in your own character. When you understand your intentions and remain consistent in your actions,